B-roll on the M621, and welcome to the Every Bus vlog. A lot of my time on this channel is going to be spent on buses, but before I can ride them, first I have to actually get to Leeds. For some of the more remote buses, I'll be driving out to them directly, but for the ones that start and end in Leeds city centre, I can't really do that. Well, I could, but I'm not going to because Leeds has a horrible one-way system, and parking is either short stay, or expensive, or very expensive. I'm not cherry-picking these are just the 3 closest car parking spaces to the bus station. Costs are pretty representative, but thankfully, there's a better way. I'm heading to Elland Road Park and Ride, one of 4 park and ride sites dotted around the outskirts of Leeds. It holds over 1,000 cars, and it's just off the M621 motorway at junction 1 or 2. The first thing you notice before you even arrive at the car park is Leeds United Stadium. I promise this video isn't going to be about football, but let's be honest, the stadium's hard to miss, so I need to talk about it. Elland Road Stadium is one of the dozen or so biggest football stadiums in the whole of England. The stadium's best-known residents, Leeds United, are a professional football team currently on track to enter the Premier League next year. Undoubtedly, they're one of the top 24 football teams in football-mad England. With all this being said, some of you will probably be wondering about the general lack of parking. The stadium does have a couple of thousand parking spaces, but that's mostly because it takes over the park and ride site on weekends. The stadium can hold almost 40,000 spectators, plus staff, players, journalists and what have you. And the vast majority of home games attract capacity or near capacity crowds. But the stadium's dedicated car parks only have a few hundred spaces. So how does everyone get here? The buses. Well, those who don't live locally and walk in, anyway. For the hour or so before and after a big game, extra buses are laid on, and some even divert to serve the stops on the other side of the stadium. And by the way, every home game is a big game. There are literally no tickets available for the rest of the season. All the games have sold out. Anyway, back to the park and ride site. Let's take a quick look around, shall we? There's a big car park, a waiting room with an information desk, a screen, a couple of ticket machines and some public toilets, and a bus stop. At the time of recording, a day return ticket for the park and ride starts at £4 a person, but the price does drop either if you buy tickets in bulk or start your journey in the afternoon. If you have a West Yorkshire Day ticket or longer, that's valid too, and either way, parking's included in the price. That means if you're paying to park in Leeds all year long, you could get yourself an annual bus pass, park here instead, and it'll pay for itself. Onto the bus, and it's a short hop into Leeds proper. The PR1 bus dives straight onto the motorway, and before you know it, we're in Leeds. The whole journey takes less than 15 minutes. Frankly, I've spent longer than that trying to find a parking space, not even counting dealing with the one-way system in the first place. Now you know why I'm mad for park and rides. The bus stops on Great Wilson Street, just outside the headquarters of Associated Dairies, before diving into the city proper for a quick stop on Boar Lane, right at the southern end of the pedestrianised zone. Local stopping buses that go along the motorway are a bit of a novelty for me, so I'm heading across to the Corn Exchange to catch the number 51. It's going to take me vaguely back the way I came, past Elland Road Stadium and into Cherwell. The 51 sees moderate ridership all day long, at least it did when I used to be a regular rider, and the recently revised route only seems to have increased demand. Although it's a local service, it runs between Leeds and Elland Road with very limited stops, only a couple of them, before getting onto the M621 and heading west. In fact, this bit of the motorway should look familiar. It's the same way I drove here in the first place, which should give you a clue that Elland Road probably isn't the park and ride site I would normally choose. I rode on the 51 as far as Cherwell. Cherwell's one of those places that's neither here nor there. It's halfway between Leeds and Morley, but for some reason it doesn't feel like a part of either of them. It feels very much like its own thing. At this point, I'd planned on filming some sweeping B-roll of the fields in Cherwell. It was a calm day, so I set up my phone on its tripod, hit record, then backed off so it could do its thing. Sudden gust of wind, and this happened. My phone survived, but its camera module didn't. Thanks to your kind donations to my Ko-Fi, I was able to order a kit to fix it, but that doesn't solve the immediate problem. No camera. Bit of an issue for a vlog, right? Luckily, I used to live in Morley, so I do have some footage that I can splice in here. Not as much as I'd like. Enough to be going on with, though. The 51 and the 52 share a route between Leeds and Morley, with the 52 continuing to Tingley Mill. That's where I headed next. I had been reliably informed that Tingley Bar Fisheries, right next to the terminus, is the best chippy in South Leeds. Quite a lofty claim. The last time I visited, it had been closed for some time, and the faded signs are still there promising it'll reopen next week. But there's no signs of life. So I hopped back onto the 52, which was still waiting at the bus stop, and headed back to Morley. Morley doesn't have a bus station, but it has a number of bus stops in the former financial district. Morley used to have full-service branches of several of the biggest English banks, including HSBC, Barclays, Lloyds TSB, and of course Yorkshire Bank. Halifax does have a branch here, but that's closing in the next few weeks. Now all that's left is a Santander that opens half days, and a NatWest that opens 4 days a week, though a couple of the local building societies do still have offices in town. The centre in Morley is mostly pedestrianised, and it seems like there's always bunting up. The day I filmed this clip was unremarkable. There was nothing special happening. Just around the corner, Morley has a large market hall open 6 days a week, including a butcher's row. If the signs are to be believed, it's been open since 1880, and looking around I can believe it. There is more to see in Morley, but for now I headed back to the bus point. Buses between Leeds and Morley are frequent, to say the least. As well as the 51 and 52 that I've travelled on today, there's numerous other routes, all of which call at the bus point in the old financial district, so we'll be back here again. Helpfully, the bus point has a totem with a real-time departure screen telling you where to catch your bus, and each of the stops has its own real-time display too. There's little point in riding the 51 all the way into Leeds just to catch the PR1 back to Elland Road, especially since I can't actually get any footage of it. So I headed back to Elland Road to finish my day. Thankfully, I already had plenty of B-roll of the park and ride too. We've reached the last stop for today, but I'll be coming back here with a part 2 after my phone's fixed. Until then, remember to thank your driver, and I'll see you on board again soon. I hope. Gods, I hope so.